just put those on real quick, just
But
so you can
this
do it.
only has one sign.
Oh, you can get the double one over there. Hold on.
There you go. Okay. 1, 2. Oh.
Sorry, you should go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can't hear a thing. Hello, hello. Okay, you hear me. I hear nothing.
Go ahead.
Oh, wait.
Tell her to go ahead.
Hello, hello. No, I don't. I'm not getting anything.
Listen, we're streaming. We're streaming live. Just
I'll be right there.
okay. He's streaming live, so I didn't turn that microphone on. So when you turn that mic on, I want to make sure it doesn't go out to those people listening to the stream. So don't do that. Don't turn that mic on yet. Hold on. Hello. Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Coming up next. Hold on. The Showdown with Mark Kasen coming up next. You need to make sure that you're not sending this audio out live. You know the stream has started.
Okay. We'll do it without that.
Put them on.
Put it on? Hello? Don't hear a thing. I can do it without the headphones.
No, I gotta make sure. You're on still? Hold on. Because your audio might be on. Just put your headphones on. You might be going out. Hold on.
Okay, I'm Mark. Okay, try again. Welcome to Showdown. I'm Mark Kasen, and I can't do this. It's not working, guys. That thing was delayed like you wouldn't believe. Okay, welcome to Showdown. I'm Mark Kasen, and believe me, it is July. Actually, it's, what the heck, July 14th. And, you know, here's the thing. I was just today at the old courthouse, which is the new version of the old courthouse. And I'll tell you what they've got there. They got all kinds of beautiful stuff. I mean, language that you would just love. I mean, everybody. It's all about the Constitution, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th Amendments. You know, here's the problem. It's not us anymore. I don't know who it is. They'll shut that thing down in 10 minutes. The guy who gave the presentation today, he's going to be fired tomorrow. I mean, the entire thing is done. Blow that place up. This is a joke. And you know what it says? One of the things it says on the wall is it says, where law ends, tyranny begins. Oh my. Where are we? You know, I say to my brothers all the time, just get a copy of Gray's Sports Anatomy, you know, which is that little booklet on Back to the Future where, you know, when Michael J. Fox burns that thing, they leave that alternative environment that they were living in. And Biff, who is, of course, Donald Trump, goes back to the garage where he's waxing cars. And that's where we got to be. But if you don't get a hold of that Gray's book, you got to burn that thing. I mean, that's the only solution. Now, here, Andre. That's all right. I can do it this way. Have you, I'm sure you've seen Back to the Future, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you know on the second version, you know Gray's Sports Anatomy, the book?
Yes.
You know, that they have to burn so that they can go out of the 1955 into the real. Yeah. Burn that book, Andre. Burn it. Do something.
Get rid of it.
This is crazy. Okay. I don't even know where to start. I mean, I'll tell you, I've been off for a week, and this guy has torn this place to shreds. First of all, one thing, just a minor thing, and that is that he wants to bomb Beijing and Moscow into the next century. Really? Okay, so that's, you know, the man is out of his mind. He's crazy. And you know what? It's funny because the people on our side, you know, the real side, you know, not the Biff Tower side, you know, where Biff's waxing the car. Yeah, that side. The guys on that side, see, they know the problem here. And it's not Epstein. You know, none of us are worried about what Jeffrey Epstein did. Now, we understand that Donald went to Epstein's parties and he's probably on the list and they were probably all doing horrible things together. But we're not even worried about that. I mean, as far as we're concerned, I mean, just take Donald and put him in some home somewhere, and you know, you can play old Epstein tapes for him or something. I mean, we don't care. You know, the so-called MAGA people are going berserk right now. They want to kill each other. They're threatening each other. Take them out of this office. I'm not going to work anymore. Bongino won't go to work. He says, I'm not working until they get that list. And we want to fire Pam Bondi. Well, yeah, fire Pam Bondi, but not because of Jeffrey Epstein. Don't worry about him. I mean, did he kill himself? I don't care if he killed himself or not. The man's dead and he's been dead. And, you know, if you figure out the answer to that, that's great. You want to figure out an answer, figure out who killed John Kennedy. I mean, I'd be interested in that, although we now know there's this guy running around, or no, I guess he's dead now, but his name was Howard. And when they asked him, you know, because Howard met with Lee Harvey Oswald, and they asked him, do you know who Howard is? Have you met Howard? Guy says, no, I don't know who Howard is. That guy was Howard. Okay, so yeah, that story has come out. And it's sort of an interesting story if you care about history. But Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, no. Please. He wasn't doing anything except for, well, getting in some trouble. But there was no, first of all, there was no pedophilia. I mean, that's their favorite thing. Joe Biden is a pedophile, according to them. Please. Enough of that talk. No, they don't even know what the word means. They don't know what they're talking about. It's enough. It really is enough. Oh, my. And this afternoon, this never ends. This afternoon, the Supreme Court gave the go-ahead to wipe out the Department of Education. So that's the end of the Department of Education, which, by the way, sends $6 billion to the states to take care of certain educational needs. Now, I don't know which money goes to which problems. It hardly matters because they're killing it all. For example, there's money that goes to mental health needs in inner city schools. That's been ended. There's money that goes to take care of kids who are supposed to eat lunch for free. Well, according to the weekend shows, that's gone. Now, I don't have that one for sure, but look, it's all going. Just like AmeriCorps, gone. Now, I know they brought it back for 10 seconds because the Supreme Court allowed that to come back for a minute, which means Job Corps is here back again for a minute. They're shutting everything down. They're wiping out this entire government. Everybody that's got a job that works for the United States government had better get the heck out of Dodge. They're not going to get paid. They're going to be fired. Donald's firing them all. And get this one. Here we are. 160 kids died in that flood in Texas. First thing that Donald said about the flood, the very first thing out of his mouth, Joe Biden did it. Joe Biden did the flood. I mean, Joe Biden has been gone for months. Joe Biden didn't do anything on that flood. Now, it is true, this is true, that there is money that could have been spent for really years, going back Joe Biden, going back to Barack Obama, perhaps even going back to Bill Clinton. That's true. That there's money that could have been spent. But here's the problem. The state of Texas won't take the money. And if they take money, they put it into their rainy day fund, and they let that fund expand into enormous amounts of money, and they refuse to spend that money. So, no, it wasn't Obama that did it. It wasn't Clinton. It wasn't Biden. It is Trump. Trump shut down like 6 jobs that were directly related to the National Weather Service in Florida. Those are gone. Now, you may say it's only 6. Well, yeah, they only needed 3 or 4. They needed somebody to do the report and to get it out so that they could push all the buttons and let people know what was going on. We have an attitude in this country. Listen to what it is. It's really shameful that everybody who works for government is a lazy bum. That everybody who works for government, they are just sort of hanging around, going out to 3-4 hour lunches, defrauding the government. They're doing nothing. They're bums. If they work for the government, they're a bum. If you work for the government, you're nothing but a bum. You do nothing. You're a freeloader. So we're going to take your money away. And so here's the deal. If you work for some government agency that supports the state at the time of something like the flood, or it could be a fire, a giant forest fire in California, or whatever it is, whatever emergency, hurricanes, tornadoes in St. Louis, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, those people are all fired. They're gone. So, according to the administration, those people don't do anything anyway. And by the way, Donald has decided that he wants to denaturalize people, and actually even people who are not naturalized citizens, just regular 14th Amendment born citizens, like me and everybody else. He wants to start taking away their citizenship, strip them of citizenship. And here are his criteria. I find this very interesting. If you've been involved in any kind of fraud or murder or rape, fraud or murder or rape, he's going to take away your citizenship. Look, he already, one person on the top of his list, Rosie O'Donnell, that citizenship, she's losing it. That's gone, according to Donald. Yeah, right. They can't do that. People say to me, can he do it? A very simple answer. He can't do most of the things that he's doing, but he can say, do it. And then somebody says yes, and somebody says no, and the courts start arguing. That's where we are. So Donald wants to get rid of people who commit fraud and who murder and rape. Well, I don't know about the murder part. I can't speak to that. But Donald Trump currently owes the state of New York $500 million for financial fraud. Sounds like fraud to me. He was accused of defrauding banks, insurance companies in New York, and that's the end of them. $500 million. Okay? Now, another case. Donald raped a woman. Now, understand, he wants ICE to pick up people off the street. You know, if they speak Spanish, if they're, a little sort of dark-skinned a little, brown skin maybe. Yeah, if you look like somebody that he thinks might be a gardener, that guy's got to be picked up. And that person needs to go directly to Alligator Alcatraz, where they've got pythons and alligators and mosquitoes that carry all kinds of diseases. That's the deal. If you're the wrong color, if you got the wrong shade, if you're not orange or white. Okay, so that's the deal. Now, if you've committed fraud or you're a rapist, you're going to El Salvador, where they make you squat for 12 straight hours. And if you fall, they start beating you until you stand up again and squat. Now, those are for the rapists and the people who are fraudsters. That's Donald Trump. Donald Trump's convicted. He's got 34 felony convictions. He defrauded banks and insurance companies in New York. And the man raped E. Jean Carroll and owes her $100 million. So my question is, why aren't we deporting him? Why aren't we stripping him of his citizenship? Just take it away. I don't understand. I really don't. He meets all the criteria. Give ICE his address and go get him. Remember, where law ends, tyranny begins. Now, those are the words down at the old courthouse in St. Louis, right on Broadway. And you can go down there this weekend. You go down there tomorrow. I spent about an hour there this afternoon. Like I said, I listened to the guy who's probably going to be fired because he's a government worker. Government worker? We should have thrown tomatoes at that guy. He works for the United States government. Fraud. He's probably raped somebody. Well, no, I'm sorry. Only the president does that. They're going to fire this guy. Did a nice job down at the museum. He was good. They'll fire him. They better. What is he doing there? He's a government employee. These people sit around eating bonbons, and they're stealing from me and you. Enough of this. But they do have to pick up Donald. I think they should do that. Anyway, I talked about the flood. Yeah, all these organizations are short-staffed. FEMA, short-staffed. In fact, instead of leading the investigation or the assistance down in Texas, FEMA is now taking on only a support role because they don't have any people. They're all fired. FEMA's shutting down. The reporters asked Donald what's going to happen to the FEMA people, and he wouldn't answer. Now, you can get all the tape. A week ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, he assured everybody that FEMA's done. But now he's a little afraid to say it because of what's going on in Texas, although I don't know that anybody cares about what's going on in Texas, because rightfully so, they're worried about the possibility that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered instead of committed suicide? Really? Is that something to worry about? You know, there are 160 children dead, and we're sitting here talking about Jeffrey Epstein because that's what all those people are worried about. I listened to them on the news this weekend. They were going nuts over Jeffrey Epstein. Laura Ingraham asked them how many people were upset. 7,000 MAGA lunatics went berserk. And then she asked, you know, who isn't worried about this? Who doesn't care? Well, no one goes for that because they care. They care very sincerely. I don't know about what, but they care. Bruce Springsteen, somebody who I've never, been quite in love with. His music is, it's okay. I don't hate it. I don't like it. Nothing. Bruce Springsteen, he's just a guy. But, a lot of people like him. And Bruce Springsteen says that Donald is corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous. I guess I better start listening to Bruce Springsteen songs because I think he's figured this out. Not bad. That's a good one. Corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous. I think that's what they could put down at the old courthouse to replace what they're probably going to have to erase, because there's no way Donald's going to allow that to stay. Where law ends, tyranny begins? No. Law is ended. There's no law in the United States of America. The Supreme Court is off on some kind of a toot somewhere. I don't know what they think they're doing. The only person on the court who seems to have the slightest idea of what's going on is Ketanji Brown Jackson. And even the two decent people on the court, and there are two other decent women on the court, Elena Kagan and of course the great Sonia Sotomayor, even they have taken some bizarre positions that ended up going against Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was in dissent by herself on one of the cases and describing the whole thing as shameful and pathetic and disgusting, and every bit of it. No one likes that she talked that way, but I don't know what else they think they can get. What else do they expect that they could probably end up with? It's just absurd. Oh well, there's other things that we're doing here, so don't get upset, because the government is taking other important action. They are moving very rapidly to, they hope, to arrest Brennan and Comey. Comey from the FBI, Brennan, Homeland Security, previous administrations. They want to arrest them. They say that they've committed crimes and they're under investigation, criminal investigation right now, and the Justice Department wants to put them in jail. In other words, Donald wants them in jail. In fact, I heard Donald, he said, these are bad men. They're evil. Did they rape anybody? I don't think so. Did they kill anybody? I don't think so. Did they commit financial fraud? I don't think so. No. They didn't do a thing, actually. In fact, Comey may have given Donald Trump the election in 2016 by writing up that report on Hillary Clinton that was ridiculous. And for that, they want to put him on alligator Alcatraz. No, this is Very crazy. Now, I will say this. You got other things to worry about. For example, if you happen to be watching this show tonight and you're sitting around, you're looking at your hands or you're looking in the mirror and you see some dots on your face. Yep, you got it. You might have the measles. Wait a minute. I thought we got rid of the measles. In fact, even today, measles is considered officially to be an exterminated disease because they haven't caught up with the information yet. But the most number of measles cases in the last few years, it had jumped up to 1,300 because Donald was trying to end vaccines back then. Now we're only halfway through the year. We're already surpassing 1,300, and there is an explosion of measles cases. Because, as all the doctors have said, and I say it that way, doctors, real doctors, because listen, the real doctors have gone to medical school and they understand how vaccination works. See, Robert F. Kennedy, who's probably out looking for Howard, you know, the guy who helped Lee Harvey Oswald to kill John, while he's out doing that, he's banning all kinds of vaccinations and basically convincing people that they don't need to be vaccinated, that you have a choice. Here's the problem. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. Well, you do if you want measles to explode and polio to come back. I mean, if you want to kill everybody in the country, and believe me, they're going to kill Donald in all of this too. Donald will end up with measles and polio both. But see, here's the thing. I guess he doesn't care because he figures he's 79, so what the heck? He hasn't got that much time left. A little measles and polio won't hurt. But he can just ravage the population with measles and polio. Good work. I'm telling you, if you don't get your hands on Gray's Sports Anatomy book, you got trouble. Burn that thing. I'm telling you, if you don't burn it, this place is gone. We have to get out of this alternative existence and move back to when Biff was waxing cars in Marty's garage. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I feel sorry for you because, you know, that movie's on 15 times a day all over cable TV. So if you didn't see it, I mean, you got to go watch it and you'll understand what the problem is. Because there's no doubt where we are, and we need out of that mess. Okay, so I'm going to do a little business here, but I'll tell you this. I hope these people are in business long enough to do the things that they're trying to do, and two of them have been in business 30 and 40 years. But, you know, when the measles and polio ravages their clients, I don't know what to say, but we'll put that aside for the moment, and I'll send you directly to the St. Louis Suit Company. And you know, I can't prove it, but they may have like polka dot suits there. Maybe not, but if they do, this would be perfect. When you get measles, you go to the St. Louis Suit Company and you put on your polka dot suit and it'll match up and you'll look great until you drop dead. But listen, here's the deal. The St. Louis Suit Company is on the corner of Central and Forsyth in Clayton, and if you don't get the measles or you don't end up with polio, you can get a tremendous suit. You can get an overcoat for the winter. You can get shoes, shirts, everything imaginable at the St. Louis Suit Company. And don't forget, the other thing they've got there, which is really outstanding, is they can help you if you're getting married. They'll set up all the wedding attire. They're very competent. They do a great job. it's just like it used to be in the United States. You have a company, it does a good job. You're in business for 30 years, which they are. You make a lot of money. You sell ties for $5 because you want to, number one, give a little something to your customers. And number two, you can, encourage customers to come in. I mean, that all worked great. Before you saw the end of law, which is, of course, where tyranny begins. But anyway, that's the St. Louis Suit Company. It's in Clayton, and I promise you, they do a terrific job. They really do. They're a great suit company. 30 years in Clayton. Probably be there 30 years more if somebody burns that, sports book. But, Jay and Nick do a great job. And like I say, they'll take care of your wedding needs too. It's the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton, and everybody in St. Louis knows they do a phenomenal job for suits and ties and shirts and shoes, everything. They are fabulous. Now, if you cut back east on Highway 40, you can get yourself over to Al, who is at the Jules on Hampton store. And Jules on Hampton is 4506 Hampton. And they do a great job. They are fantastic. They design jewelry. They will help you to design jewelry if you want to do your own. They sell gold. They buy gold and coins. Al and his son AJ are just extraordinarily honest, good people. They really are. The people who work in their store with them, excellent people. Really the best. You'll just love it. You just got to go and find out. I mean, if you're walking around today and you're despondent over the fact that there's measles and tariffs and FEMA's dead and the education department is destroyed, go to the St. Louis Suit Company. Go to Jules on Hampton. Outstanding companies, great people, do some really good business with people who will take care of their customers and who love America. They really do. They're great. So that's Jules on Hampton, 4506 Hampton. Now, let me tell you that if you really want Italian food, you just cut right back down Highway 40, going west, and you'll find yourself in Creve Coeur, and you will get every kind of great pasta that you have ever imagined. But if you like pasta, believe me, there's nothing like the spaghetti and meatballs. I mean nothing. Spaghetti and meatballs, sometimes you can get it with cheese, you can get it with everything. It's just fabulous. Great food. That's Italian food, and it's at Telena's in Creve Coeur, and they've been there for 40 years. That's a long time. All the way back to 1985. 40 years. That's good food, and that's a great restaurant. That's Telena's in Creve Coeur. And finally, let me get you to Wenty's, W-E-N-T-E. Wenty's is in Chesterfield Valley, 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. And if you love wings, you'll love Wenty's. 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. Get the wings. You'll love their wings. They're good. Everybody loves that. Now, they've got hamburgers and cheeseburgers and patty melts, salads. You name it. Best iced tea on the planet. But for me, it's the baby back ribs. I love those baby back ribs. And match it up with the onion rings. And the last time I went there, just a couple weeks ago, I also had coleslaw with it. And wow, that was great food. So, Wenty's In Chesterfield Valley, 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. Ben and his wife, they take care of everything. They run a great show there, maybe even as good as Showdown. Anyway, really, it's great food, and you'll love it. That is Wenty's. So just before I went to this little break, I did mention tariffs. And, you know, you talk about the problems that this country's got. You know, one of the problems is, I mean, Donald is turning things upside down in a way that you can't even imagine. And what I'm looking at here is the S&P 500, which hit a high today of 625.16. Last week it was up to about 626.60. So it got back to 625.16, closed at 624.50. Not bad, not just a little bit off the high. Up for the day at 624.50. It was up 112. That's like a 100-point gain in the Dow. The Dow was up about 88 points, something like that. Advances and declines were pretty thin, just 100 more stocks up than down, and that's been acting poorly anyway. And I just have to tell you something. Not only is the stock market in trouble, it is. It's in tremendous trouble. Now, it didn't collapse under the weight of the tariffs today, and I think that's an important thing for you to understand. When the market starts down and everybody starts yelling tariffs, don't even listen, because that's not what's doing in the market. Market's a different process. There are many markets, actually. Bond market, stock market, currency market. Currencies have been steadily dropping. Copper going through the roof. Now, believe me, and this is ridiculous, honestly it is. Donald, you know, he didn't want to kill the stock market, but he, you know, people thought he did back, you know, a couple months ago. And then it came all the way back up and actually made a slightly higher high. But listen to me. I talk about this all the time. There's an index called the Russell 2000. And it represents all of these average companies all over the place. Great companies, little companies, but good businesses. But the problem is this. When they completely lose all strength, while the market is inching its way a little further, believe me, it's only a matter of time before everything in the markets blow up. Now, what Donald can be blamed for is not for killing the market, but for not taking care of business at a time when the market is truly in a very dangerous position. And now let me add to that the following problem, and this is related directly to the market, and that's the 30-year bond. And I'm telling you, you better be fearful of this, because it really is a problem. The 30-year bond ended the day just under 5%. Just under 5%. That's the highest that bond has been in a couple of years. That's bad business. That's horrible. And now, listen to this. What Donald wants to do is he wants the Fed to lower interest rates from 4.5% right now to 1.5%. And he's pressuring Jay over at the Fed. You know, Jay Powell is a nice enough guy. He's not Ben Bernanke. He's not Alan Greenspan. They were great. He's not Paul Volcker. They were terrific Fed chiefs. But he's not bad. He's okay. And he's doing the right thing. He will not lower those rates. He's very smart not to, because he knows there's the potential for a surge in inflation. Now, you may say, no. Donald has said he is going to bring the cost of everything down. So Donald came up with this great idea. He'd throw more tariffs on. And when he did, he tariffed copper. And here's the deal. The copper price exploded upward. Exploded. I mean, enormous. If you look at the chart of copper, it's like a rocket ship, straight up. Well, Donald said he did that because he was afraid that we weren't going to have enough copper to make our defense weapons. Well, now he's guaranteed he's not going to have the copper because he's going to have to pay $1 gazillion for it, which, the United States has unlimited money, but we didn't have to do this to ourselves. We did not have to shoot ourselves in the foot on copper. We didn't have to do it. But he did it. He did it anyway. Okay. So that's an effect in the marketplace that he has directly impacted. But not the stock market, not the bond market. The bond market's sitting right at about 5%, and that's tied into the problem that we got in the stock market. And by the way, I'm telling you this is not good. If you've got a 5% interest rate, and that's high, then your dollar should be gaining value, because people all over the world should look at the United States and say, we can invest our money in the US dollar and we can get 5%. That's good money right now. Very good. No one wants it. They're selling the US dollar. They want to get out of this place. I would too if I were in their position. I mean, personally, I'm not one of the guys who wants to leave this place, although I'm sure after this show, Donald could get a phone call from somebody out in Potosi or somewhere, and they could say, I got a guy for you. There's this little Jew that you can deport to either El Salvador or Alligator Alcatraz or somewhere, and he might sign that order, But at any rate, at the moment, I'm not deported, but I'm just telling you, wait till you see the stock market. Wait until you see it cave in. It's going to be savage. How do I know? I haven't got enough time to tell you. But I can tell you this. It's going to be savaged. It is. Soon. I'll see you back here on Thursday and we'll find out. But, between now and Thursday, I wouldn't want to be counting my 401k, I'll tell you that. But anyway, that's just another part of what's going on out here. We've already talked a little bit about FEMA, but they are shutting down FEMA. They're afraid to say it this week, but they said it every week before this week. Go put it in on Google. You'll hear he said it repeatedly, that he's shutting down FEMA. Here's a good line. This is a good line from this weekend on MSNBC. And it's actually not even their line. It's one of the Supreme Court justices, and I'm not even sure which one, because they've all said it at a different time, and it's all the same thing. It all boils down to really one statement. The Constitution is not a suggestion. It's not like, hey, let's try the Constitution. No, that's not how this works. The Constitution is etched in stone. Now, it's true that Justice Scalia said, rightfully so, that the Constitution is not a suicide pact. And here's what he meant by that. In interpreting the Constitution, we should not be so set in our ways as to suggest that we would take the chance of blowing up the whole country in order to do something that is not critical in our legal system. I mean, for example, critical would be free speech. Critical would be no cruel and unusual punishment. So, if you've got somebody that's, down at Alligator Alcatraz, you got to get them out of there. El Salvador, no, they got to go home somewhere. That's cruel and unusual punishment. And we don't do it. It's in the Constitution. It's etched in stone. But there could be some other things. There was a lot of debate at one point over whether we should let the Nazi Party have the right to protest in Skokie, Illinois. And even then, we decided to do it, to allow them, because we allow free speech. If you take away the speech from the Nazi Party, well, then they'll be shutting down Antifa and Showdown, and every other little guy that's, anywhere walking around with an idea in the United States. They'll be taking away citizenship and so forth. So, yeah, that's a problem. And here's another problem. Even this. I mean, the Supreme Court has mostly come down against Donald. Admittedly, today they shut down the Department of Education. They did that. It's pretty sad, but they did it. And they've done some other things. They've allowed some people to be fired. So all that is kind of a bad thing. But they also did something else this last weekend. They said, if you speak Spanish, ICE can't pick you up and drop you off at Alligator Alcatraz. They can't do it. They said, no, you can't do that. Actually, I think it was a lower court, to tell you the truth. It gets to the Supreme Court. They may go back the other way. I don't know. I know this. ICE, if anybody is supposed to be arresting hardened criminals, and as members of our government said over the weekend, hardened criminals, yes, not gardeners. That's not their job, to go round up all the gardeners and lock them up. That's not what they were supposed to do. The gardeners can be left alone. Rapists, I'd say that should be right at the top of the list, really. If you're a rapist, you need to be arrested. And even then, not Alligator Alcatraz, that's against the Eighth Amendment. So no, Donald should not even go to Alligator Alcatraz. I am perfectly content. Put an ankle bracelet on and send the man home. End this administration and move Donald back home. He's got to raise $100 million for E. Jean Carroll and $500 million for the state of New York. Let him worry about that. And let ICE leave the gardeners alone. They're shutting down the education department. That's $6 billion that goes to public schools. Let me help you understand what that means. And it's worse than that. That's just $6 billion. There's more money than that out there. Anyway, it goes to public schools. They've already shut down mental health services. Inner city schools have kids who have been seriously traumatized. And for decades, we have given money to the schools to help take care of these young kids who have mental health issues. It's the truth. How about food? Those kids go to school, they have no food. They have no food at home sometimes. They go to school, they've got trauma in their lives, they've already been in need of mental health services. You got to feed those kids. No, take away that money. That's gone. Don't feed any kids. Let's get that out of there. $6 billion. Do you know we spent a tiny portion of our government money, tiny portion, on saving Africans from HIV. It's called PEPFAR. It was created by George W. Bush, and we shut it down. Here's one for you. I'm a senior. I'm a grown-up. I'm old, they say. By the numbers, yeah. Okay, well, here's the deal. They're going to let old people get some vaccine for COVID. But the rest of you, they're shutting off the COVID vaccinations. Now, you can look at me right now and say, come on, hydrochloroquine, yeah, that'll take care of you. Ivermectin, whatever that junk is. The stuff that they give to horses. That's what Donald, he wants to give you that. He'll give you some bleach. You can go buy bleach. But you can't get any COVID vaccine unless you're 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, whatever it is. He'll let those people have it. But even then, which vaccine they're going to give you, don't worry, because I'll tell you right now, it's all being run by RFK Jr. OMG. For those of us who sat in front of the television set in 1968 in June and watched RFK, the great RFK, shot dead, we have to sit here almost 60 years later, 57 years later, and listen to that crackpot son of his shutting down every kind of health service that you could possibly have in this country. Did you read the Post-Dispatch yesterday? The COVID group, whatever it is, over at Washington University has been shut down. And don't blame Washington University. These things are being cut everywhere. Funding for everything is being cut. So, yeah, if you're in Africa, you're going to die of AIDS, definitely. And if you're at Washington University here in St. Louis being treated for long COVID, you may be in the same problem. Read the Post this weekend. It's right there. You think this place isn't in trouble? What area haven't we touched yet? I can't think of it. We're arresting people because they speak Spanish. We're deporting people who Donald doesn't like, even though they are natural-born American citizens. And then, of course, he wants to denaturalize all these other people. You know, the gardeners. Yeah, you're going to have to pick your own weeds, I'll tell you that, because you're not going to be able to get a gardener. And believe me, I'm not worried about you and your gardener. I'm worried about your gardener. Your gardener's got a family that needs to be taken care of, and your gardener's a hard-working person who wants to survive and do great in America and have his son or daughter grow up to be president of the United States. Well, but Donald wants to send them to Alligator Alcatraz. It's terrible. And what is our governor doing in all this? Well, he's got some great stuff to do. First of all, he's, along with the federal government, going to shut down Medicaid, which means black women who are currently 3 times more likely to die in maternity than white women, well, they'll lose their Medicaid. That's the end of them. So that could go to 4 or 5 times. Thank you, Mike Keogh, for that. Certainly here in Missouri. And then, here's a good one. In a couple of weeks, the kids are going to go back to school. 2-3 weeks. August. They're going to go back to school, and they're going to be told, no cell phones. Now, there are people who say, well, that's not a bad thing, no cell phone. Good work, Mike Keogh. But guess what? Mike Keogh says no cell phones, and the schools are going to have to implement the policy by themselves and come up with their own methods of preventing the kids from having cell phones, which only puts the schools back to where they were last week, because guess what? They've always told the kids to get rid of the phones, and the kids aren't listening. So now Mike Keogh says, you can't have a phone. And by the way, school, that's your problem. You make sure they don't have a phone. I just hate to tell you, there's no end to any of this. But I'll also tell you this. It is 1 minute to 5 o'clock. And so in a minute here, I am going to hit the road. But I will tell you that between now and the next show, I've said a lot of things tonight. I think I'm going to leave it with this for you. Bruce Springsteen, here you go. Corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous. That's Donald Trump. And I'm Mark Kasen, and this is Showdown. Good night.